Layla Wilson had always felt like a bird trapped in a gilded cage in the vast, sun-kissed expanses of Eden Valley, Texas, where the horizon stretched like an endless promise under the relentless blue sky. At 23, she was a woman of striking beauty, her skin a rich, deep ebony that glowed with the warmth of the southern sun, her eyes dark pools of quiet intelligence framed by curls that cascaded like midnight waves. But beauty was only the surface. Beneath it lay a legacy of immense wealth and unyielding expectations. Her parents, Elijah and Miriam Wilson, had built an empire from the dusty plains. A sprawling ranch spanned thousands of acres, dotted with herds of cattle fields, of golden wheat and oil wells that whispered fortunes from the earth. They were visionaries, black pioneers in a world that often sought to diminish them, turning barren land into a symbol of resilience and prosperity. Yet fate had a cruel twist. A tragic car accident on a rain-slicked highway had claimed their lives 2 years prior, leaving Layla adrift in a sea of grief. In their will drafted with the precision of Texas law, they had established a trust fund that would grant her complete control of the ranch and its assets only upon her 25th birthday. Until then, she was to venture beyond Eden Valley's borders, taste the world unfiltered by privilege, and forge her own path without the crutch of inherited wealth. Our dear Layla, the letter accompanying the will had read, "We built this for you, but you must earn the wisdom to steward it. Live, learn humility, and return when ready to lead." It was a mandate wrapped in love, but it felt like exile to Layla, a forced odyssey to prove she was more than her fortune. Eden Valley was her soul's anchor. The ranch house, a grand Victorian structure with wraparound porches and creaking wooden floors, held echoes of laughter from family dinners and the scent of her mother's jasmine perfume. She remembered riding horseback at dawn, the wind whipping through her hair as she surveyed the land that bore her family's name. But the will was ironclad. Any premature return would forfeit her inheritance to distant relatives, a clause designed to push her toward growth. With a heavy heart, Layla packed a modest suitcase, leaving behind the luxury cars and designer wardrobes for thrift store finds that disguised her origins. She chose New York City as her destination, not for its glamour, but for its anonymity, a concrete jungle where a young black woman from Texas could blend into the mosaic of dreamers and strivers. The journey was a blur of Greyhound buses and restless nights in motels, each mile pulling her further from the familiar rhythm of ranch life. As the skyline of Manhattan pierced the horizon, Layla's pulse quickened with a mix of trepidation and exhilaration. The city was a symphony of chaos, honking taxis, bustling crowds, and skyscrapers that scraped the heavens like ambitious fingers. She found a cheap room in a Brooklyn boarding house, its walls thin enough to hear neighbors' arguments, a far cry from the sprawling solitude of Eden Valley. Money was tight. The trust allowed a small stipend, just enough for basics, forcing her to seek employment immediately. Browsing job postings on a library computer, Layla's eyes landed on an ad that seemed almost serendipitous. Seeking nanny for energetic 6-year-old girl. Must be reliable, patient, and skilled in childcare. Salary, $1,500 month plus room and board. Apply at Valmonte Manor, Upper East Side. It wasn't her first choice. She had envisioned waitressing or office work, but the promise of stability drew her in. Childcare. She had helped raise cousins on the ranch, teaching them to ride ponies and mend fences. How hard could it be? Yet a whisper of doubt lingered. She knew nothing of urban parenting, of nannies navigating the elite world of New York's wealthy. Layla took the subway to the Upper East Side, dressed in a simple blouse and jeans, her curls tied back to project approachability. The neighborhood was a world unto itself, tree-lined streets, flanked by brownstones and doorkeepers in crisp uniforms. Valmonte Manor was no exception, a stately townhouse with wrought iron gates and ivy climbing its facade, exuding old-money elegance. A poster on the gate confirmed the ad as she approached, but a heated argument from inside caught her ear. A woman's voice, tearful and resigned, echoed, "I can't take it anymore," followed by a man's deep baritone, pleading yet firm. Layla hesitated at the gate, her hand hovering over the intercom. Was this a sign to turn back? But the will's words echoed in her mind. Learn humility. She pressed the button, her voice steady, despite the flutter in her chest. "Hello? I'm here about the nanny position." The guard, an older man with a kind face, buzzed her in after a brief exchange. As she stepped through the grandeur, hit her the manicured garden, the fountain tinkling like soft laughter. This was no ordinary home. It screamed privilege, the kind her parents had fought to achieve against all odds. Waiting in the foyer, Layla's thoughts drifted to Eden Valley. She missed the open skies, the way the stars blanketed the night without city lights to dim them. Her phone buzzed a text from attorney Harlan, her family's trusted lawyer Layla checking in. "The trust is secure. Stay strong. 2 years will fly by." She smiled faintly, pocketing the device just as an older woman, Magda the housekeeper, appeared. "You're here for the job. Follow me." Mr. Moore is desperate. The last nanny just quit. Magda led her through opulent halls adorned with abstract art and crystal chandeliers. Whispers of the argument lingered in the air, painting a picture of domestic turmoil. Layla's curiosity piqued. Who was this Mr. Moore, and what made his daughter so challenging? As they entered a study lined with leather-bound books, she caught her first glimpse of him. Henry Moore, tall and broad-shouldered, his white skin flushed with frustration, blue eyes sharp under tousled blonde hair. He was dressed in a tailored suit, the epitome of Wall Street success, yet his posture betrayed exhaustion. Miss Wilson Henry's voice was smooth, like aged whiskey, but edged with weariness. He extended a hand, his grip firm, yet warm. "I'm Henry. Thank you for coming on short notice." Layla met his gaze, feeling an inexplicable spark, a flicker of recognition, as if their worlds, so different, were destined to collide. She handed over her ID, fabricating a simple backstory. A girl from rural Texas, seeking city adventures without mentioning the ranch or the millions waiting in trust. As Henry reviewed her details, Layla studied him subtly. He was handsome, in a rugged all-American way, but shadows lingered in his eyes, perhaps the weight of single parenthood. "So Layla, why New York, and why nanny work?" he asked, leaning back in his chair. She replied with practiced ease, weaving truth with omission. "I wanted to see the world beyond Texas farms. Kids. They've always brought joy to my life." He nodded, seeming convinced, but a subtle furrow in his brow hinted at unspoken questions. The interview flowed like a gentle stream, Henry's questions probing yet respectful. He shared snippets of his life. A high-powered financier divorced, raising Sophie alone after her mother left for a new life in Europe. "She's a handful," he admitted, a rueful smile softening his features. "But she's my world." Layla felt a pang of empathy. Her own loss mirrored his solitude. By the end, he offered the job on the spot, room and board included. "Start tomorrow. We need you." The city buzzed around her as she left the manor, but Layla's mind raced with possibilities. This was her new beginning, a chance to live authentically unburdened by wealth's shadow. Yet, as the subway rattled back to Brooklyn, a quiet thrill stirred within her. Henry Moore's eyes had lingered a moment too long, and in that gaze, she sensed the stirrings of something profound, something that could upend her carefully laid plans. Little did she know, the gilded cage of Eden Valley was nothing compared to the emotional labyrinth awaiting her in this concrete paradise. The next morning she arrived at the manor early, greeted by Magda's warm smile. "Welcome, dear. Sophie's upstairs, good luck." Climbing the grand staircase, Layla's heart pounded. The door to Sophie's room was pink and adorned with stickers, a child's haven in this adult fortress. Knocking softly, she entered to find a little girl with Henry's blue eyes and wild blonde curls, sitting amid toys, her expression a mix of curiosity and defiance. "Hello, Sophie. I'm Layla, your new nanny." The words hung in the air, laden with potential. Sophie tilted her head, assessing. "Are you going to quit like the others?" The question was blunt, a child's armor against abandonment. Layla knelt to her level, her voice soft as a summer breeze. "Not if we become friends. What do you say? We start with a story from Texas." Sophie's eyes lit up faintly, the first crack in her shell. But as the day unfolded, challenges emerged. Sophie tested boundaries, spilling juice, hiding toys. Each act was a cry for attention. Layla navigated with patience, honed from ranch life, where calming spooked horses required steady hands. By evening, as Henry returned from work, Layla had Sophie laughing over a game of pretend cowboys. He watched from the doorway, his expression unreadable, but a spark of gratitude flickered in his eyes. Dinner was a family affair, though strained. Still in his suit, Henry shared tales of Wall Street battles, his voice animated yet distant. Layla listened, contributing insights from her simple Texas upbringing, careful not to reveal too much. "Sounds like herding cats," she joked, drawing a genuine laugh from him, a sound that sent warmth through her veins. Sensing the connection, Sophie beamed, but Layla felt the weight of her secret. How long could she maintain the facade? Nights became her refuge and torment. Alone in her room, a cozy guest suite with city views, she called Attorney Harlan. "The ranch is fine, Layla. Cattle prices are up. But remember, no contact with Eden Valley until 25. His words were a lifeline and a chain. She dreamed of the ranch that night, of riding under stars. But Henry's face intruded, blending worlds in a tantalizing dance. Days turned to weeks, and Layla immersed herself in New York's rhythm. She took Sophie to Central Park, where the girl chased pigeons, her laughter echoing like freedom. Layla taught her about diversity, sharing stories of black cowboys in Texas history, subtly educating without preaching. Henry noticed, complimenting her one evening. "You're good with her. Better than anyone." His words lingered like a caress, stirring feelings she dared not name. Yet doubts crept in. A society event invitation arrived for Henry, and he mentioned bringing a date and a colleague. Jealousy unbidden flared in Layla's chest. Was she just the nanny, or could there be more? As Sophie slept, Layla stood at the window gazing at the twinkling lights. The city was vast, but her heart felt confined, yearning for connection amid the deception. One rainy afternoon, Sophie drew a picture of family with Henry herself and a dark-skinned figure. "That's you, Layla," she said innocently. Tears pricked Layla's eyes. This child so vulnerable had claimed her. But the legacy loomed: the trust, the ranch, the truth she hid. As thunder rumbled, Layla resolved to cherish the moment, unaware that fate was weaving a tighter web. Henry Moore's world was a fortress of steel and glass, where deals were sealed with handshakes that could make or break fortunes. At 32, he was the golden boy of Wall Street, his sharp mind and unyielding drive propelling him to the top of a prestigious investment firm. His skin, fair and freckled from summers on Cape Cod, contrasted with the dark suits he wore like armor. Blue eyes, inherited from his New England lineage, held an intensity that intimidated rivals and charmed clients. But beneath the polished exterior lay fractures, A divorce that had left him jaded, a sister lost to illness, and the responsibility of raising Sophie, the niece he had adopted as his own. The mansion on the Upper East Side was his sanctuary and prison. Inherited from his parents, it was a testament to old wealth, high ceilings, marble floors, and art collections that whispered of European vacations. Yet it felt empty, echoes of laughter long faded. With her mother's wild spirit, Sophie filled the space with chaos. Her pranks were a rebellion against the absence of a maternal figure. Henry loved her fiercely, but his long hours left little room for parenting, leading to a revolving door of nannies. Enter Layla Wilson, a breath of fresh air from the South. From the moment she stepped into his study, Henry felt a shift, a subtle pull, like gravity realigning. Her presence was magnetic, her confidence quiet, yet commanding. As he hired her, he couldn't shake the feeling that she was more than she let on. "Welcome to the family," he said, his voice laced with hope. Layla's first full day was a trial by fire. Sophie, sensing a new target, scattered marbles across the playroom floor, causing Layla to slip and fall with a thud. Pain shot through her, but she rose with a smile. "Nice try, little one, but I've wrangled calves tougher than this." Sophie's eyes widened, intrigue replacing mischief. Overhearing the commotion from his home office, Henry peaked in his heart, tightening at the sight of Layla's resilience. As weeks passed, the mansion transformed. Layla introduced structure with a touch of Texas warmth. Morning routines, with homemade pancakes, afternoons in the park, where Sophie learned to climb trees safely under supervision. Henry observed from afar, his admiration growing. Evenings brought unexpected intimacy. After Sophie's bed, he and Layla shared coffee in the kitchen, conversations drifting from stock markets to stargazing memories. One night, as rain pattered against windows, Henry opened up. "My ex left when Sophie was 2. Said the city life wasn't for her, but it was me she couldn't handle my work." Layla listened, her dark eyes empathetic. "Loss shapes us, but it doesn't define us. In Texas, we say the land heals what the heart breaks." Her words lingered a balm to his soul. He found himself drawn to her strength, her grace in the face of Sophie's tantrums. But Sophie wasn't easily won. A terrible day saw her locking Layla out of the bathroom during bath time, water flooding the floor. Layla coaxed her with stories of ranch adventures, painting pictures of sunsets and wildflowers. "You're like a Mustang, wild and free, but you need a friend to run with." Sophie hugged her, then a breakthrough that brought tears to Layla's eyes. Henry's suspicions simmered. Layla's knowledge of finance seemed too keen for a simple farm girl. During a dinner, she commented on market trends, citing news he hadn't shared. "How did you know that?" he asked lightly. She deflected with a laugh, but the seed was planted. The turning point came during a park outing. Sophie, in a fit, threw her toy into a pond. Layla waded in to retrieve it, emerging soaked but triumphant. Henry, arriving early, saw the scene and rushed over. "You're incredible," he murmured, his hand brushing hers as he helped her dry off. The touch electrified, a promise of more. As the part closes, Sophie whispers to Henry, "I like her, Daddy. Don't let her go." But Henry's mind whirls with questions about Layla's past, setting the stage for more profound revelations. The morning light filtered through the tall windows of Valmonte Manor, like golden threads weaving through a tapestry of uncertainty, casting long shadows across the polished hardwood floors. Layla Wilson stood in the doorway of Sophie's playroom, her heart a quiet drumbeat of determination. It had been a week since she crossed the threshold of this opulent world. It was a week of tentative steps and fleeting glances with Henry Moore, whose presence lingered in the air like the subtle scent of his cologne, crisp, commanding, and inexplicably inviting. But today, the real challenge awaited Sophie, the 6-year-old whirlwind. with eyes like storm-tossed seas, and a spirit as untamed as the Texas winds Layla had left behind. Sophie sat amid a chaos of toys, her small hands clutching a doll with fierce possessiveness. Her blonde curls framed a face that could shift from angelic innocence to defiant rebellion in the blink of an eye. Layla approached slowly, her movements deliberate, like approaching a skittish foal on the ranch. "Good morning, Sophie," she said, her voice a soft melody, infused with the warmth of Southern hospitality. "What adventure shall we embark on today?" A tale of hidden treasures in the park. The child looked up, her gaze sharp and assessing, as if weighing Layla's worth in some invisible scale. "I don't want adventures," Sophie replied, her tone laced with the petulance of a girl who had learned too early how to build walls. The last nanny said that, and she left. There was a challenge in her words, a test wrapped in vulnerability. Layla knelt to her level, her dark eyes meeting Sophie's with unwavering gentleness. "Well, I'm not like the last nanny. I'm Layla from a place where stories come alive under the stars. Would you like to hear one about a brave little girl who tamed a wild horse?" For a moment, Sophie's expression softened, curiosity flickering like a distant star. But then, remembering her defenses, she scattered a handful of building blocks across the floor, creating a barrier between them. "I don't care about horses. Go away." Layla's smile didn't falter. She had faced fiercer storms on the open plains of Eden Valley. Instead, she picked up a block, turning it in her hands as if it held secrets. These blocks could build a castle, a fortress where no one can hurt you. But even castles need friends to guard the gates. The day unfolded as a series of skirmishes, each one a brushstroke in the portrait of their budding relationship. Sophie tested boundaries with the precision of a strategist, hiding Layla's phone during breakfast, spilling paint during art time, and refusing naps with theatrical protests. Layla navigated these with a blend of firmness and empathy, drawing from memories of her own childhood rebellions against the structured life her parents imposed. "Sophie, darling," she said, after cleaning the third spill, "anger is like a summer storm. It passes if you let it. But holding on, that makes you wet and cold." Henry observed from the periphery that his Wall Street schedule allowed only glimpses. He caught sight of Layla, coaxing Sophie into a reluctant hug after a tantrum, her patience a quiet force that stirred something deep within him. In the evenings, when the city lights twinkled like distant diamonds, he lingered in the kitchen, drawn to her presence. "You're handling her well," he remarked one night, pouring coffee with hands that betrayed a subtle tremble. Most would have quit by now. Layla turned her curls, catching the light, and met his gaze. "Quitting isn't in my nature, Mr. Moore. Sophie's just a little lost, like we all are sometimes." As the days blurred into a rhythm, subtle shifts emerged. Sophie began to seek Layla out, not with overt affection, but with small gestures. A drawing slipped under her door, a question about Texas, whispered during bedtime stories. Layla wove tales of the ranch without revealing its grandeur. Vast skies, loyal dogs, and the thrill of a cattle drive. In Texas, we learn that even the wildest creatures can be gentled with time. She told Sophie one afternoon in Central Park, as they watched squirrels dart among the trees. Sophie clutched her hand, then a fleeting touch that spoke volumes. Yet trials persisted. One particularly stormy day, Sophie's frustration peaked during a puzzle session. Pieces flew across the room, and tears followed. "I hate this. I hate everything," she cried, her small body shaking. Layla enveloped her in a hug, her voice a soothing whisper. "It's okay to hate the puzzle, but don't hate yourself. You're stronger than you know." In that moment, as rain lashed the windows, Sophie clung to her, the first crack in her armor, widening into a chasm of trust. Henry, returning early from a meeting, witnessed the scene from the hallway. His heart ached with gratitude and something more profound, an admiration bordering on longing. Layla's resilience, her innate grace, reminded him of the life he had lost. In the divorce, warmth amid the cold calculations of finance. That evening, as Sophie slept, he approached Layla in the library. "Thank you," he said, his blue eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch for seeing her, truly seeing her. Layla felt a flush rise, the air charged with unspoken possibilities between them. "It's easy when you care, Henry." Using his first name, hung between them, a bridge was tentatively crossed. But beneath the progress lay Layla's internal turmoil. Her secret, the vast ranch in Eden Valley, the trust fund, ticking like a clock, weighed heavier with each passing day. Phone calls with attorney Harlan were brief, coded reminders of her dual life. "The estate thrives, but remember your path," he advised. Layla nodded into the void, her mind wandering to Henry. His world was one of mergers and acquisitions, yet in quiet moments, he revealed vulnerabilities. Late nights, poring over reports, the shadow of his ex-wife's abandonment. "I built this life for stability," he confessed one twilight. But stability feels empty without connection. Layla's own reflections mirrored his. As a black woman in this elite enclave, she navigated subtle undercurrents, glances from neighbors, assumptions in shops. Yet in the manner, she felt seen, valued. Sophie's growing attachment was a balm, but Henry's lingering gazes ignited a fire she hadn't anticipated. One night, as she read to Sophie, the child murmured, "You're like a mommy from stories." Tears pricked Layla's eyes. This unintended role was becoming her truth. The climax of these initial trials came during a family outing to the Metropolitan Museum. Sophie, overwhelmed by the crowds, had a meltdown amid the Egyptian exhibits. Layla calmed her with an improvised story of ancient queens, her voice weaving magic. Henry watched, transfixed, his hand brushing Layla's as they exited. "You have a gift," he whispered, the touch sending sparks through her. The battle with Sophie felt won in that instant, but a new one stirred within the struggle against her heart's burgeoning desires. As the sun set over the city, painting the skyline in hues of rose and gold, Layla stood on the manor's balcony, the wind whispering secrets. Sophie slept peacefully, a testament to their bond. But Henry's words echoed connection. Could she forge one without shattering the fragile illusion? The night held no answers, only the promise of deeper entanglements, as the stars above reminded her of Eden Valley's endless skies. The velvet cloak of midnight draped over Valmonte Manor, transforming its grand halls into intimate sanctuaries where secrets unfurled like petals under moonlight. Weeks had passed since the initial skirmishes with Sophie, weeks that had forged a tentative alliance, turning chaos into harmony. Layla Wilson moved through the house with quiet confidence, her role evolving from mere nanny to the heartbeat of this fractured family. Sophie sought her out, not as an adversary, but as a confidant, her laughter echoing like chimes in the wind. Yet in the late hours, when the city slumbered and the manor breathed softly, true bonds were woven, threads of vulnerability spun in the glow of kitchen lights. By day, Henry Moore, the Titan of Wall Street, shed his armor in these nocturnal interludes. His days were a whirlwind of boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions, but nights brought reflection and increasingly Layla's company. It began innocently, a shared cup of tea after Sophie's bedtime stories, conversations drifting like autumn leaves. "Tell me more about Texas," he would say, his voice a low rumble that resonated through her. Layla obliged, painting pictures with words, the rustle of cattle at dawn, the scent of earth after rain, the solitude of stargazing on endless plains. She omitted the grandeur of Eden Valley, the ranch's vast holdings that made her an heiress, in waiting, focusing instead on the land's soul. One such evening, as rain tapped a gentle rhythm on the windows, Henry leaned against the counter, his shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms honed by weekend tennis. "You speak of it with such passion," he murmured, his blue eyes tracing the curve of her smile. "It's as if the land is part of you." Layla felt a warmth spread through her, his gaze a caress she dared not acknowledge fully. "It is," she replied softly, stirring her tea. "Texas taught me resilience, the kind that bends but never breaks." Their eyes met a silent exchange, laden with unspoken yearnings, the air thick with the fragrance of possibility. These conversations delved deeper, with time peeling back layers like onions, revealing the tender cores beneath. Henry shared fragments of his past, the pressure of a legacy family, the divorce that had left him questioning love's endurance. "She wanted glamour, but I gave her security," he confessed one night, his voice tinged with regret. "Now security feels like a cage." Layla listened, her heart aching for the man behind the mogul. "Cages can be opened, Henry. Sometimes it just takes the right key." Her words hung between them, a bridge of empathy, and for a moment, his hand hovered near hers, the space electric. Sophie, too, became part of this nocturnal tapestry. She would pad downstairs on restless nights, curling into Layla's lap as stories flowed. "Tell me about the stars again," she whispered, her head resting on Layla's shoulder. Henry would join the three, forming a tableau of makeshift family laughter, mingling with yawns, the manor alive with warmth. These moments stirred Layla's soul, evoking memories of her parents' evenings around the ranch fire, discussions of dreams and duties. But guilt shadowed her joy. Her secret loomed a specter, threatening this fragile Eden. As bonds strengthened, subtle intimacies emerged. Henry began leaving notes, simple thanks for Sophie's improved moods, accompanied by fresh flowers from the market. Layla treasured them, pressing petals between book pages, like captured sunbeams. In return, she baked Texas-style cornbread, the aroma drawing him to the kitchen. "This tastes like home," he said, savoring a bite, his eyes locking on hers, with an intensity that made her pulse race. "What home do you dream of, Layla?" The question pierced, forcing her to deflect with a laugh. But inside turmoil brewed, the ranch called, yet this life beckoned. One moonlit night, as Sophie dreamed upstairs, their conversation turned personal. Henry spoke of loneliness, the void his ex had left. "I thought success would fill it, but it doesn't." Layla, emboldened by the hour's intimacy, shared her own losses. The accident that stole her parents the will's mandate for independence. Grief carves rivers in us, but those rivers lead to new shores. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers, a touch that sent shivers through her. "You've brought light to our shores, Layla." The moment stretched, hearts sinking in silent rhythm until the clock's chime broke the spell. These late-night exchanges fostered growth in Sophie as well. She blossomed under Layla's guidance, her mischief channeling into creativity, drawing maps of imaginary Texas adventures, helping in the kitchen with wide-eyed wonder. Henry noticed his gratitude evolving into admiration. "You're changing us," he admitted during a walk in the garden. The city lights a distant hum. Layla smiled, her heart swelling. "Change is mutual, Henry. You've shown me a different kind of strength. Yet beneath the romance of these bonds lay undercurrents of tension." Layla's calls with attorney Harlan grew frequent, and updates on the ranch's operations were a reminder of her impending return. "The trust nears maturity," he said. "But your heart, where does it lie?" She pondered this as she watched Henry play with Sophie, his laughter a melody she craved. The divide, her hidden wealth, their differing worlds widened subtly, especially as societal whispers reached her ears. comments from Henry's colleagues about the help during a brief event appearance. The part's crescendo arrived during a quiet storm. Sophie, feverish, clung to Layla through the night. Henry joined the vigil, their hands entwining over the child's form. "I couldn't do this without you," he whispered, his breath warm against her ear. In that vulnerability, Layla felt the pull of love, a force as inevitable as the tide. As dawn broke, painting the room in soft pinks, she realized the bonds formed in these late hours were unbreakable, yet fragile against the truth she harbored. The city awakened, but in the manner a new day dawned with deeper connections. The late-night conversations, a foundation for what lay ahead, whispering promises of hearts entwined. The crisp autumn air of Central Park carried whispers of change, leaves swirling in a ballet of amber and crimson, as if nature conspired to mirror the evolving tapestry of emotions within Valmonte Manor. Weeks had deepened the roots of connection, transforming tentative alliances into something profound, yet fragile, like the first frost on a blooming rose. Layla Wilson moved through this season with a grace born of inner strength. Her days were a harmonious blend of nurturing Sophie and stealing moments that hinted at unspoken desires with Henry Moore. The park had become their sanctuary, a verdant escape from the manor's gilded confines, where laughter echoed freely and hearts dared to unfold. On this particular afternoon, the sun hung low, casting a golden hue over the sprawling lawns and winding paths. Sophie, her energy boundless as a spring colt, darted ahead, with a kite clutched in her small hands, its tail fluttering like a banner of joy. "Watch me, Layla. It's going to soar like a bird," she called, her voice a melody of pure delight. Layla followed her steps, light, her dark curls catching the breeze. She wore a simple sundress that hugged her figure with effortless elegance, the fabric whispering against her skin as she watched the child with a maternal tenderness that had grown unbidden. Henry had joined them unexpectedly, his schedule clearing like a parting cloud. He walked beside Layla, his presence a steady anchor in the shifting sands of her emotions. "These moments," he said softly, his blue eyes tracing the path of Sophie's kite, "remind me why I fight through the chaos of the city. Seeing her happy, it's everything." Layla turned to him, her gaze meeting his with a depth that spoke volumes unspoken. "Happiness is a fragile gift, Henry. It blooms where it's least expected." Their fingers brushed accidentally, or perhaps not, as they strolled, a touch that sent a subtle current through her awakening senses, long dormant. The kite danced higher, tugged by an insistent wind, until a sudden gust wrenched it from Sophie's grasp. It sailed erratically, tangling in the branches of an ancient oak, its string dangling just out of reach. Sophie's face crumpled, tears welling like storm clouds. "My kite! It's stuck!" she wailed, her small fists clenching in frustration. Layla knelt beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Don't worry, sweetheart. We'll get it down. Adventures always have a few twists." But Sophie shook her head, her sobs intensifying, the disappointment cutting more resounding than the mishap warranted. Perhaps an echo of deeper losses. Henry stepped forward, assessing the tree with a practical eye. "I'll climb up," he offered, but Layla placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Let me try first. I'm lighter, and I've scaled fences back home." Her voice held a quiet confidence born of ranch days, where necessity demanded agility. Henry hesitated, his concern evident, but nodded his trust in her, a silent affirmation that warmed her core. Sophie watched wide-eyed as Layla approached the tree, her dress hitching slightly as she grasped a low branch. The ascent was careful, each movement a testament to her poise. The bark roughened against her palms, the leaves brushing her face like nature's caress. Higher, she climbed the world below, shrinking until the kite string was within reach. Almost there, she called down, her voice steady despite the height. Sophie cheered faintly. "Henry, standing vigilant below his expression, a mix of admiration and worry. With a final stretch, Layla's fingers closed around the string triumph surging through her. But fate, ever capricious, intervened. A branch weakened by recent rains gave way with a sharp crack. Time slowed as Layla felt the support vanish, her body tumbling gracefully. She landed awkwardly on the soft grass, pain exploding in her ankle, like a burst of fireworks, sharp, unrelenting. A gasp escaped her lips, the world blurring through tears. Sophie screamed, rushing forward, her small face pale with horror. "Layla, are you okay? I'm sorry. It's my fault." Henry was at her side instantly, his strong arms lifting her gently, his face etched with concern. "Layla, talk to me. Where does it hurt?" His voice was a lifeline, steady amid the chaos. She winced, pointing to her ankle, which was already swelling. "It's twisted, I think." Nothing broken, but the pain was secondary to the remorse flooding Sophie's eyes. The child clinging to her skirt, sobs racking her tiny frame. "I didn't mean to." "The kite. Please don't leave like the others." In that moment, a profound shift occurred amidst the crowd of concerned onlookers. Sophie's defiance melted into raw vulnerability, her arms wrapping around Layla's waist. "You're the best, Layla. Don't go." Despite the throbbing ache, Layla pulled her close, her voice a soothing whisper. "I'm not going anywhere, sweet girl. Accidents happen. They're part of the story." Henry watched, his heart swelling with an emotion he couldn't yet name. Gratitude, mingled with a more profound affection for this woman, who turned crisis into connection. The journey to the nearby clinic was a blur of Henry's efficient commands and Sophie's tearful apologies. X-rays confirmed a sprain, nothing more, but the doctor prescribed rest and ice. Back at the manor, Henry carried Layla to her room, his touch lingering as he settled her on the bed. "You were brave up there," he said, his eyes holding hers with an intensity that made her breath hitch. "But next time, let me be the hero." Layla smiled through the discomfort, her hand brushing his. "Heroes come in pairs, Henry. Today Sophie was mine." She showed her heart. As evening fell, Sophie refused to leave Layla's side, fetching ice packs and drawing get-well cards with crayons. "I love you, Layla," she murmured, curling up beside her. The words pierced Layla's soul, a reminder of the bonds she had forged that transcended her hidden legacy. Henry joined them, bringing dinner on a tray, his presence comforting. "You've changed her," he confided later as Sophie dozed. "And me." Their conversation flowed like a gentle river, touching on fears and hopes, the air charged with unspoken longing. The accident, minor though it was, became a catalyst for remorse and renewal. Haunted by her role in the mishap, Sophie vowed to be the best girl ever, her pranks giving way to thoughtful gestures. Witnessing Layla's unwavering spirit, Henry found his admiration blossoming into something tender, an affection that colored their interactions with subtle romance. Layla, in turn, felt the pull stronger, her secret weighing heavier amid this growing intimacy. Nights following were laced with quiet revelations. Henry visited her room with books and tea, their talks delving into dreams deferred. Layla asked, "What do you seek in life?" He asked one starlit evening, his voice a velvet caress. "Peace," she replied, her eyes reflecting the city's glow. "And perhaps a love that sees beyond surfaces." His hand covered hers, then a promise in the touch as remorse faded into the dawn of deeper connections. The park accident, a minor crisis, had etched remorse into their hearts, but from it bloomed a resilience that bound them closer, whispering of futures intertwined under the city's watchful lights. The first whispers of winter kissed the air of New York, carrying a chill that contrasted with the warming embers of affection stirring within Valmonte Manor. As leaves surrendered to the frost, so too did barriers yield to the gentle bloom of romance, transforming everyday moments into canvases of subtle enchantment. Layla Wilson. Her ankle mended and her spirit invigorated by the park's lessons, was immersed in a new chapter where preparations for Sophie's 7th birthday became a symphony of shared dreams and lingering glances with Henry Moore. The manor buzzed with anticipation, its halls adorned with hints of festivity, mirroring the quiet revolution in their hearts. Sophie's birthday loomed like a promise on the horizon, a milestone Henry approached with excitement and trepidation. "I want it to be magical," he confided to Layla one crisp morning as they sipped coffee in the sunlit breakfast nook. His blue eyes sparkled with determination, his hand gesturing animatedly. "Something she'll remember forever. Disney princesses, perhaps. She's obsessed with them." Layla leaned forward, her dark eyes alight with ideas, her presence a beacon that drew him nearer. "Magical it shall be, Henry. Imagine a royal ball with gowns and crowns, where Sophie reigns as the belle of the evening." Their collaboration unfolded like a delicate dance, each step drawing them closer. Mornings were spent poring over invitations and decorations. Henry's office was transformed into a planning haven. Layla's suggestions flowed with creativity, honed from Texas traditions. Elegant, yet heartfelt. Add touches of whimsy. She proposed sketching a chocolate fountain, cascading like a fairy tale waterfall. Henry watched her, captivated by how her curls framed her face, the passion in her voice stirring echoes in his soul. "Your vision is enchanting," he murmured, his fingers grazing hers over the sketches, a touch that lingered, igniting sparks. Afternoons brought outings to upscale boutiques where they selected gowns and accessories. Layla emerged in a sample dress in a mirrored fitting room, its fabric shimmering like starlight against her ebony skin. Henry's breath caught his gaze, tracing her form with unspoken admiration. He said, "You look like a queen," his voice husky and emotional. Layla blushed, twirling lightly. "And you, Henry, would make a fine prince." Their eyes met in the mirror, a silent vow passing between them, the air thick with the fragrance of budding love. Sophie, sensing the shift, became their joyful accomplice. "Will there be a castle?" she asked, her eyes wide as Layla described the venue, a grand ballroom in a historic hotel, adorned with twinkling lights and floral arches. The child's excitement fueled their efforts. Her hugs were a reward that bound them as a unit. Yet in quiet moments, signs of love emerged unbidden. Henry began seeking Layla's company beyond planning walks in the frost-kissed garden where his arm brushed hers, or shared glances over dinner that spoke of desires unspoken. One evening, as snow flurried outside, they finalized the theme in the library's glow. Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Sophie's favorite, Layla, suggested her hand pointing to a design. Henry nodded, but his focus was on her, the firelight dancing in her eyes. "You're beautiful, Layla," he said suddenly, his words a confession wrapped in velvet. She turned, heart racing. "And you see beauty where others don't." Their hands entwined, then a gentle clasp that promised more, the room alive with the symphony of their breaths. Preparations intensified, each task a thread in their romantic weave. Baking practice cakes in the kitchen led to flour-dusted laughter. Henry's fingers wiping a smudge from her cheek, the touch electric. "You've brought magic to this house," he whispered, his face inches from hers. Layla's pulse quickened, the signs of love blooming like winter roses, defiant, exquisite. The eve of the party arrived, and the manor was abuzz. Henry pulled Layla aside in the hallway, his expression tender. This wouldn't be possible without you. You've captured our hearts. His lips brushed her forehead. A kiss, feather light, yet profound, sealing the blossom of romance in the hush before the celebration. As night fell, the preparations complete, Layla stood alone, reflecting on the signs, the touches, the gazes, the shared dreams. Love had taken root, subtle and sure, promising a harvest of joy amid the city's winter embrace. The grand ballroom of the historic Waldorf Astoria shimmered under a constellation of chandeliers, their light refracting through crystal prisms to paint the air with a dreamlike glow. It was the night of Sophie's 7th birthday, a royal affair, orchestrated with the precision of a symphony, each note a testament to the blossoming bonds within Valmonte Manor. The venue was a vision of enchantment. Golden drapes cascaded like waterfalls. Tables overflowed with roses and candelabras, and a towering chocolate fountain bubbled at the heart of it all, its rich aroma mingling with the laughter of children dressed as princes and princesses. Layla Wilson stood at the edge of this fairy tale, her heart a kaleidoscope of joy and trepidation, her ebony skin radiant against the flowing white gown that transformed her into Snow White, a princess not of wealth, but of spirit. The preparations had woven a tapestry of intimacy between Layla and Henry Moore, their shared glances and fleeting touches igniting embers that now threatened to blaze. Sophie, the evening's belle, twirled in a yellow gown inspired by Belle, her blonde curls crowned with a tiara that sparkled like her newfound trust in Layla. Guests, Wall Street magnates, society matrons, and Sophie's schoolmates filled the room, their murmurs a backdrop to the music of a string quartet. Yet amidst the splendor, Layla felt the weight of her secret heavier than ever, the truth of her Eden Valley legacy, a shadow lurking beneath the celebration's brilliance. Henry, resplendent, in a tailored suit that echoed Prince Florian's elegance, moved through the crowd with practiced charm, his blue eyes seeking Layla's whenever duties parted them. She assisted with the event, ensuring servers circulated with trays of sparkling cider and guiding children to the magic show. Her grace drew admiring glances and whispers, subtle cutting remarks about the nanny in a gown too fine for her station. Layla brushed them aside, focusing on Sophie, who beamed as she opened gifts. Her laughter was a melody that soothed her unease. As the evening unfolded, Henry found her near the chocolate fountain, its gurgle a soft counterpoint to the music. "Layla," he said, his voice low, intimate, cutting through the crowd's hum. "You've made this night magical, not just for Sophie, for me." His hand grazed hers, a touch that sent warmth coursing through her veins, her breath catching as their eyes locked. "Henry, it's for her," she replied, her voice a whisper of sincerity. "But I'm glad you're here to see it." The air between them crackled, charged with an unspoken promise. But duty called him back to the guests, leaving Layla with a heart that fluttered like a caged bird. The magic show ended, and the moment arrived for Sophie's grand entrance as the birthday princess. Layla guided her to the center, where a spotlight bathed her in golden light. The crowd cheered, but Sophie's eyes sought Layla's, a silent plea for reassurance. Layla knelt, adjusting her tiara. "You're an actual princess tonight, Sophie. Shine bright." Sophie hugged her fiercely, whispering, "I want you to stay forever, Layla." The words pierced Layla's heart, a bittersweet reminder of the life she was building and the truth she concealed. Henry joined them, his presence a steady anchor. As the cake was wheeled out, a confection of roses and spun sugar, he took the microphone, his voice resonating warmly. "To my daughter Sophie, who makes every day brighter, and to Layla, who brought light to our home." The crowd applauded, but his gaze held Layla's, a confession shimmering in his eyes. She felt the world tilt, the weight of his words wrapping around her like a velvet cloak. Later, as guests mingled, Henry pulled Layla to a quiet alcove draped in ivy. The music faded to a distant hum, the world shrinking to just them. "Layla," he began, his voice trembling with vulnerability. "These past months have changed me. You've changed me. Your kindness and strength are like finding a star in a city that's always too bright." He stepped closer, his hand finding hers, fingers entwining with a tenderness that stole her breath. "I love you, Layla. I think I've loved you since the moment you walked into my life." Her heart soared, a symphony of joy and fear. The truth her hidden legacy threatened to spill, but love overpowered doubt. "Henry," she whispered, her dark eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I love you too, more than I thought possible." Their lips met in a kiss that was both a beginning and a vow, soft, yet searing the world, fading as they surrendered to the moment. The ivy seemed to sigh the stars beyond the windows, bearing witness to their confession. But the night held one more gift. Having slipped away from the dance floor, Sophie found them in the alcove. Her eyes widened, then softened into a smile. "Are you and Daddy in love?" she asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and hope. Henry knelt, pulling her close. "Yes, sweetheart. Layla's part of our family now." "What do you think?" Sophie's face lit up, her arms wrapping around them both. "I want Layla to be my mommy. She's the best." Her acceptance was a crown upon their love, a blessing that sealed the moment in golden light. Yet even as joy enveloped them, a shadow lingered. Layla's phone buzzed in her clutch, and there was a message from attorney Harlan: Trust Fund review next week. Prepare to return to Eden Valley. The words were a cold wind against the warmth of Henry's embrace. As they rejoined the party, Sophie's hand in hers and Henry's arm brushing her side, Layla felt the weight of her secret grow heavier. The crowd's whispers intensified, some about her race, others her role, hinting at challenges ahead. Could love withstand the truth? As the night ended with fireworks bursting over the city, Layla vowed to cherish this moment, unaware that fate was poised to test their newfound bond. The days following Sophie's birthday glowed with the afterlight of love, declared each moment a delicate brushstroke on the canvas of Layla Wilson's life in Valmonte Manor. The confession in the ivy-draped alcove had shifted the air, infusing it with a sweetness that lingered like the scent of roses after a summer rain. Henry Moore's love was a beacon guiding Layla through the complexities of her dual existence, while Sophie's acceptance wrapped her heart in warmth. Yet beneath this radiant surface, the fault lines of her secret, the vast Eden Valley Ranch, the trust fund ticking toward her 25th birthday, quivered, threatening to fracture the fragile paradise she had built. Mornings were now laced with stolen moments. Henry's hand lingering on hers as he passed her coffee, his blue eyes holding promises that made her pulse race. Emboldened by their new closeness, Sophie drew pictures of their family, her crayons sketching Layla in vibrant hues beside a smiling Henry. Once, a fortress of solitude, the manor hummed with life, laughter in the kitchen, shared stories in the library, and quiet evenings where the three curled up under blankets watching old Disney films. Layla felt herself sinking deeper into this world, her Texas roots both a distant anchor and a looming specter. But signs of strain emerged, subtle at first, like cracks in fine porcelain. Henry's colleagues invited to the birthday had whispered about the nanny-turned-paramour, their words laced with classist and racial undertones. Layla overheard snippets at a follow-up dinner hosted for business associates, where a matron remarked charming, but hardly suitable for Henry's circle. The words stung, a reminder of the divide between her fabricated simplicity and her true heritage. She deflected gracefully, but the comments burrowed into her, amplifying her fear of exposure. Henry, too, sensed discrepancies. Layla's knowledge, her casual references to land management, her ease with legal terms during a discussion about investments, piqued his curiosity. One evening, as they reviewed photos from the party, he noticed a call on her phone from Harlan Esk. "Your lawyer friend again?" he asked, his tone light but probing. Layla smiled, deflecting. It was just an old family contact checking in. But his gaze lingered, a flicker of doubt in his blue eyes, planting seeds that would soon sprout. The shattering moment came unexpectedly, as such moments often do. It was a quiet Saturday, the manor bathed in the soft light of late autumn. Sophie played upstairs, her giggles a distant melody, while Layla tidied the study, her thoughts drifting to Henry's latest gesture, a single rose left on her pillow with a note. "To my star." She smiled, tucking the note into her pocket. When her phone rang, she left it carelessly on the desk. The screen lit up with Harlan's name, and before she could reach it, Henry, entering to grab files, answered instinctively. "Layla's phone," he said, his voice warm, unsuspecting. The voice on the other end was crisp, authoritative. "Miss Wilson, it's Harlan. The trust fund transfer is set for your return to Eden Valley. Congratulations, Heiress. The ranch is yours in 3 weeks." The words hung like a guillotine, slicing through the room's tranquility. Henry's face paled, his hand tightening around the phone. Layla froze, her heart plummeting as she saw the shift in his expression from warmth to betrayal. "Henry, she began, but he cut her off, his voice icy. "Heiress Ranch. What else have you hidden, Layla?" The confrontation unfolded like a storm. Henry's fury was a controlled blaze, his words sharp as they pierced the air. "You lied to me, to us. Was this all a game, pretending to be the humble nanny while you're sitting on a fortune?" His blue eyes, once soft with love, now burned with hurt, each accusation a dagger to Layla's heart. She stepped forward, tears welling, her voice trembling with desperation. "It wasn't a lie, Henry. I love you. I love Sophie. I hid the truth because I wanted to be seen for who I am, not what I own. Please let me explain." But Henry's pain, rooted in past betrayals, his ex-wife's abandonment, the sister he couldn't save, blinded him. "I trusted you," he said, his voice breaking. "I opened my heart and you played me for a fool. Was our love just part of your charade?" The words cut deeper than any blade, and Layla's sobs echoed in the silent study. Sophie, drawn by the noise, appeared at the door, her eyes wide with confusion. "Why are you yelling, Daddy? Why is Layla crying?" Henry's resolve wavered, but his anger held firm. "Sophie, go to your room," he said, his tone gentler but firm. The child's face crumpled, her small voice defiant. "No, I love Layla. Please don't make her leave." She ran to Layla, clinging to her, tears streaming. Layla knelt, hugging her tightly, her voice a whisper of anguish. "I'm so sorry, sweet girl. I never meant to hurt anyone." But Henry's decision was made. "Leave Layla. Go back to your ranch, your real life. We don't need lies here." The room seemed to collapse around her, the walls of their shared dreams crumbling. Layla gathered her things, her movements mechanical, each step heavy with loss. Sophie's cries followed her to the door, a haunting refrain. "Don't go, Layla. Please." Henry stood rigid, his jaw set, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt, quickly buried. Layla paused at the threshold, her voice barely audible. "I love you both. I hope one day you'll see that." With that, she stepped into the cold New York dusk, the city swallowing her as she boarded a taxi to the airport. In Eden Valley, the ranch awaited, a sprawling empire of cattle and fields, its beauty a hollow echo without the warmth of Henry and Sophie. Layla stood on the porch, the Texas stars a cruel reminder of the nights spent dreaming in the manor. Attorney Harlan greeted her, his voice kind but firm. "You're home, Heiress. But where's your heart?" Tears fell as she clutched a photo of Sophie's birthday, their faces frozen in joy. The revelation had shattered her world, but the love she carried burned brighter, a flame refusing to die. The Texas sun dipped low over Eden Valley, painting the sprawling ranch in hues of amber and rose, as if the land itself mourned the absence of joy in Layla Wilson's heart. 3 weeks had passed since the shattering confrontation in Valmonte Manor. 3 weeks since Henry Moore's fury had driven her from the warmth of their fledgling family back to the vast, lonely expanse of her inheritance. The ranch with its rolling pastures grazing cattle, and the grand Victorian house that echoed with memories of her parents, was both a sanctuary and a prison. Layla stood on the wraparound porch, her ebony skin kissed by the evening breeze, her dark curls swaying as she clutched a worn photograph of Sophie's birthday, a frozen moment of laughter with Henry, and Sophie now a bittersweet relic of what might have been. Her days were filled with the duties of an heiress meetings, with ranch hands reviewing ledgers with attorney Harlan and walking the fields where her parents' legacy thrived. Yet each task felt hollow, the weight of her secret's revelation, a stone in her chest. She had hidden her identity as the Eden Valley heiress, to live authentically, to be loved for her soul rather than her wealth. But the cost was steep: Henry's trust, Sophie's tears, and the love that had blossomed so delicately now lay in tatters. Nights were the hardest when the stars above Texas mirrored those she'd shared with Henry in New York. Their conversations, a distant melody, she yearned to hear again. Layla's reflections were a tempest of regret and resolve. She saw Henry's face in every sunset, his blue eyes burning with betrayal, yet softened by the love they'd confessed. Sophie's voice haunted her, the child's plea, "Don't go, Layla," a refrain that echoed in her dreams, ever the steady guide. Attorney Harlan noticed her melancholy during a morning coffee on the porch. "You're home, Layla, but your heart's elsewhere," he said, his gray eyes kind but probing. "Have you considered reaching out? Love like yours doesn't fade easily." Layla sighed, her fingers tracing the photograph's edges. "I'm afraid, Harlan. What if he can't forgive me? What if I've lost them forever?" Her fear was a shadow, but hope flickered beneath it. She wrote letters to Henry unsent, pouring her heart onto pages that spoke of love and apologies. "I hid the truth to be seen as Layla, not an heiress," she wrote, tears staining the paper. "But my love for you and Sophie is the truest thing I've ever known." The letters piled up, a testament to her longing, but the courage to send them eluded her. The vast and thriving ranch felt like a gilded cage, without a little girl's laughter, or the warmth of a man who had captured her soul. Meanwhile, in New York, Valmonte Manor was a hollow shell. Henry moved through his days with mechanical precision, his Wall Street empire thriving, but his heart in disarray. Sophie's rebellion had intensified. She refused meals, hid in her room, and drew endless pictures of Layla, her small face etched with grief. "Why did you make Mommy Layla leave?" she demanded one evening, her voice a blade that cut through Henry's resolve. He saw his pain reflected in her eyes, the weight of his anger now a burden he couldn't bear. "I was wrong, Sophie," he admitted, his voice breaking. "I let my hurt blind me." The turning point came unexpectedly, as if fate, weary of their suffering, intervened. Sophie, determined to reclaim her mommy, found Layla's address in a forgotten note from attorney Harlan left during the birthday planning. With the cunning of a child, she slipped out one dawn, convincing Magda to drive her to a meeting point where Harlan, visiting New York for business, reluctantly agreed to escort her to Texas. "I need Layla," Sophie pleaded, her blue eyes fierce with love. Harlan, moved by her resolve, acquiesced, though he warned, "Your father will be frantic." Layla was tending to the rose garden in Eden Valley, her mother's pride, when a commotion at the gate shattered the morning's quiet. A small figure barreled toward her blonde curls, bouncing dress streaked with dust. "Layla, mommy. Layla." Sophie's voice was a clarion call, her arms wrapping around Layla's waist with desperate strength. Tears sprang to Layla's eyes as she knelt embracing the child. "Sophie, sweetheart, how are you here?" Her heart raced a mix of joy and fear as Harlan appeared apologetic yet firm. She insisted, "Layla, and I think you need to see what follows." Before Layla could process, a familiar figure emerged from a dusty rental car. Henry, his face a map of worry and resolve. The Texas sun haloed his blonde hair, his blue eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that stole her breath. "Layla," he said, his voice raw. "I came for Sophie, but also for you." Sophie clung to her, whispering, "Don't let Daddy send you away again." Layla's heart pounded the moment at a crossroads between past pain and future hope. Henry approached his steps tentative, as if crossing a fragile bridge. "I was a fool," he began, his voice trembling with sincerity. "I let anger close my eyes to the truth of your heart. I love you, Layla, and I can't lose you again." Tears streamed down her face, the weight of his words lifting the stone from her chest. "Henry, I never meant to hurt you. My love was always real." Their hands met fingers, entwining a silent vow to mend what was broken. Sophie, sensing the shift, beamed. "Are we a family again?" she asked, her voice a spark of hope. Layla and Henry laughed through tears, pulling her into their embrace. The Texas fields stretched around them, a canvas of possibility, as love rekindled under the vast sky, promising a pursuit fulfilled. The dawn over Eden Valley broke with a quiet magnificence, the sun rising like a golden promise over fields that rolled endlessly toward the horizon. Layla Wilson stood at the edge of a pasture, her dark curls catching the morning light. Her heart, a symphony of hope and healing. The reconciliation with Henry Moore and Sophie had mended the fractures of their past, weaving their lives into a tapestry of love that shimmered with possibility. The ranch, once a reminder of loss, now pulsed with life, a stage for their future, where her parents' legacy intertwined with the family she had chosen. Days since Sophie's bold escape had been a whirlwind of rediscovery. Henry and Sophie stayed in Eden Valley, the manor in New York, a distant memory, as they embraced the rustic charm of Texas. The grand house welcomed them, its creaking floors and sunlit rooms, a backdrop to laughter and shared moments. Sophie, her spirit freed from grief, explored the ranch with wide-eyed wonder, chasing butterflies and learning to ride a gentle pony under Layla's patient guidance. "You're my real mommy now," she declared one afternoon, her small hand in Layla's, her blue eyes sparkling with trust. The words were a crown adorning Layla's heart with a joy she hadn't known possible. Henry, too, transformed in this new landscape. The Wall Street titan shed his suits for jeans and flannel, his hands learning the rhythm of ranch life, mending fences, tending horses. Yet his transformation was more profound, rooted in the love that had survived betrayal. Evenings found them on the porch, sharing stories under a blanket of stars, their voices weaving dreams. "Texas suits you," Layla teased one night, her smile radiant as she leaned against him. Henry's arm encircled her, his breath warm against her ear. "You suit me, Layla. This us is home." Their love, tested by truth, grew stronger, its roots nourished by forgiveness. Yet Layla carried a lingering fear. How would they merge their worlds? The trust fund loomed, her 25th birthday, mere days away, when she would claim the ranch fully. Would Henry, a man of city ambitions, embrace this life? And what of the societal whispers, the racial and class divides that had shadowed their romance in New York? These questions lingered, but Henry's steady presence quelled them, his every glance a vow of commitment. The resolution came on a morning painted in hues of promise. Henry proposed an early ride, a picnic at a hill overlooking the valley. They saddled horses. Layla was on a chestnut mare, and Henry and Sophie shared a sturdy gelding. The air was crisp, the scent of earth and dew, a perfume of renewal. As they reached the hill, a picnic awaited, arranged by Henry, a checkered blanket laden with fresh bread fruits and a jug of sweet tea, the scene framed by wildflowers swaying in the breeze. Sophie ran to gather daisies, her laughter a melody, while Henry took Layla's hand, leading her to the blanket. His blue eyes held a nervous intensity, his fingers trembling slightly as they sat.
"Layla," he began, his voice a velvet caress. "You've given me more than I ever dreamed, a family, a love that endures. You're the heiress of Eden Valley, but to me, you're the keeper of my heart." He knelt, drawing a small velvet box from his pocket, revealing a diamond ring that caught the sunlight like a captured star. "Will you marry me, Layla Wilson? Will you let me share this life, this land, this love?" Tears welled in Layla's eyes, her heart soaring like the hawks above. "Henry, you've seen me truly, seen me beyond wealth, beyond secrets. Yes, I'll marry you." She laughed through her tears, her voice trembling with joy. "The ring's already on, so I guess I'm yours." Henry slid the ring onto her finger, its cool weight, a promise of forever, then pulled her into a tender and fierce kiss, the world fading as their lips met under the Texas sky. Sophie, returning with a bouquet, squealed with delight. "Mommy, Layla, and Daddy are getting married."
She dove into their embrace, the three a constellation of love against the vast landscape. The moment was perfect, a resolution woven from trials and triumphs, and their family was complete in the heart of Eden Valley. A year later, the ranch hosted their wedding, an intimate affair under a canopy of oaks with close friends and Harlan as witnesses. Layla, radiant in a gown of ivory lace, walked toward Henry, his smile brighter than the sun. Sophie, their flower girl, scattered petals with glee, her tiara gleaming. Vows were exchanged, each word a thread binding their past to a promising future. Layla felt a flutter as they danced under fairy lights, a new life growing within her, a blessing to complete their joy. The Texas stars bore witness to their happily ever after, a testament to love's power to heal, forgive, and unite. Layla, once an heiress in hiding, was now a wife, a mother, a keeper of dreams, her heart forever tethered to Henry and Sophie in the embrace of Eden Valley. We hope this tale of love and redemption touched your heart. Please like, share, and comment below to share your emotions. Did Layla and Henry's journey move you? Subscribe to our channel for stories that weave romance and resilience under the stars.